Okay, tonight we're going to do a quick and dirty one. We're going to talk about the row count transform over here. And this is actually a pretty simple one, but it still deserves coverage. And actually, here in the next day or two, I'm going to put something together and show you something really cool that we can do with the row count. But for right now, let's just learn how to use it real quick. So I'll start with the source. I do believe I said row count. There it is, the row count. And then the destination. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up our source. I will use my address table. I'll do the columns. Row count I'll get to in a second. Actually, I'll go ahead and do that now. So what you have to do is you have to set row count to a variable. So if you remember from before, actually to set up good habits, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the control flow and set and click on an empty space here so that I can have a package level scope. And I'll say CT input, and that stands for count input. So I'm going to count the rows that are being input there, and it's going to be an int32 type. So I'm going to come back in here now, double click on this guy. You assign it the variable name. So far so good, right? Well, come here. There we go. Right there. Now, for the name, I usually like to give it, well, not usually, I always like to give it the same name as the variable. That way, when I'm looking at it, I can automatically tell which variable it goes with, and I don't have to open it up to see. That's just something I like to do. So here, I'll put this in the address multi-table. That seems to be my new default table. Sure, I'll do that. Okay, so I got this set up. And all this is going to do is just count the rows that come across and assign them to this variable. You're not going to see anything here, so there's no real reason for me to run this, because you wouldn't see anything. But, if I wanted to, when this was done, so I come in here. Okay, fine, I'll go ahead and do it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, now that I've got this, I'll go back to the toolbox and I'll put in a script task. I'll put this guy in here like this. Double click on that. It says read write variables. I'm just reading, but I prefer read write anyway because you never know. I'll do the user input and come in here to script. This is the first time I brought this up tonight, so it's going to take a couple minutes. There we go. Okay, so all we'll do, come here. All we'll do is just print that out to a message box. Message box. There. Variables. There we go. So all I'm going to do is message box that variable, right? Got that? And that's once that's done. So it's going to do the data flow first. It's going to come down here and it's going to insert all these rows. Then it's going to shoot up a message box with the number of rows that were inserted. Fair enough? And we'll go in here so that we can watch the rows come across. We go ahead and save this in case something stupid happens. And we're off to the races. And this has got quite a bit of data in it, so it's going to take it a couple minutes to do it. There we go, it's warming up now. Let me see, while we're here, let's go ahead and find out how many we have here from address. See if we can get a quick count of how many rows we're going to be expecting. Okay, that's going to be 6 million and change. And we're at 3. That's not too bad. Tell you what, I'm going to pause this until I get to about 6 million, then I'll turn it on. I'll turn it back on for you. Okay, here we are. We're narrowing in on it. There it goes, there it goes, there it goes. back here. Oh, and I failed. Huh. Well, let's find out what we did then. What did we fail on here? Oh. I see. Okay. I should be able to fix that. You can open up any day now. There we go. Oh, yeah, that's right. Duh. Okay. Dot value, and I'll go ahead and do a to string just to make sure. There we go. Yeah, I didn't put the value in there. Okay. See, I like it when these things happen on these videos, because if you haven't been able to tell, these videos aren't particularly rehearsed. I just come up with a topic and then start doing something. And I like it when stuff goes wrong sometimes, because it shows you things to look out for and shows you how to recover from these errors. So if everything always went perfectly smoothly, then you'd really never learn anything. I mean, you'd learn how things worked in a perfect world, but you'd never really learn how to troubleshoot things. So I'm glad when these simple things happen sometimes. And let's save that this time again. Come back here. And I'll tell you what. Let's do this. So we don't have to sit through the whole thing again. Let's say select top 1000 star from address. Let's preview it just to make sure we got it right. Okay. Columns, we got that right. Doesn't look like it's going to break anything over here. Okay, good. Now we ought to be able to do this really fast, right? And there's my window with 1,000 count. Yay! Okay, so what we did was we counted the rows as they went across, and then we displayed them to the screen, right? Now, of course, once you've got it in this variable right here, you can do anything with it, right? Now, I want to point one more thing out again, because I pointed it out earlier, but I don't think I harped on it very well, was that I made sure to put this variable at the package scope. If I'm in here and I put this variable at the data flow scope, when it comes back here and this data flow releases and this comes back here, the script task won't be able to see this variable because it's in the data flow scope and not in the package scope. So scope is very important here. So when you're doing this and you create, you have to stop that. You have to leave this guy right here. In fact, let me see if I can do that without too much trouble. You can't change scopes here, so you have to delete it, and then I'll come in here and say CT input, and it's not yelling at me, so let's go ahead and see what we're going to get. I'll put this over here this time. Good, and it failed because it's out of scope. Let's see what the error message gives us. The variable cannot be found. It's right there. So that's exactly what happened. The variable couldn't be found. Where are you? There you are. Because the variable has the data flow scope. You notice how when I click on the data flow here, this variable comes back. And now if I were to do this, I don't even know if I could do this. I got the package. There we go. So which one of these two is going to run, right? The script task is going to see the variable that it sees, is going to see the package variable that it can see. This guy right here can see both of them, so I'm not sure which one it's going to write to. Let's find out. It'll either be 0 or 1,000, right? Or maybe it'll error out. Oh, sorry, I got to start it, don't I? And it's 0. Yay! So I'm not sure which one this one actually wrote to. Yeah, I'm not sure which one this one here actually wrote to, because it can see both of them. Well, actually, I wonder if we can see real quick. Yeah, see, it's got two of them there. And it looks like it wrote to, well, I know which one it wrote to. It wrote to the one that was, yeah, duh. It wrote to the one that's in its data flow. It wrote to this one, because if it wrote to this one, then the other one would have picked up 1,000. So yeah, when you've got two variables the same name, then it's gonna start in its own schema, so to speak, and then this one's gonna see its own schema. So when you're doing these row values, these row counts, just make sure that you pick the appropriate scope for your variable, or else you're going to be in trouble. And believe me, it's taken me hours to troubleshoot something that simple before. So anyway, that's the row count variable. Good luck.